Alright everybody, it's Jay, and I just wanted to go over more of this video about the social experiment I did, and talk about why I think spirituality in general is just not a good thing to be following, New Age spirituality, to say the least, because I had a lot of really unique experiences in there that just weren't as unique on the good side of things, but like unique as in like there's a lot of weird stuff going on in there. And I'll break some of it down and have you understand why I just did not want to be a part of it after a while. So let's break it down. Alright, so here's my page we're on right now, my YouTube page, JDem. I'm going to keep it as it is until I decide to upgrade it, which is going to be very, very soon. I'm going to do some rechanges to it, and I don't know, maybe I'll call it something else, but for now it's called JDem. Alright, and if you scroll down, this video right here is the one I want everybody to watch that watches this and go back and try to understand why I partly did what I did and what I found out about it and what I learned from it. Now, let's go back to the big screen. I want to talk about my reasoning for not following New Age spirituality anymore, and why I think it's a bad thing to begin with to even try to remotely insert yourself into. Now, pardon me, I am kind of sick, and also I want to say this might be a top topic video, like a hot take on something, because I know a lot of people out there, they disagree with, like, probably disagree with what I'm going to say, and that's fine and dandy, but I want to break down a lot of things and have you understand why I think, spirituality is just a thing that will eventually die off and people are just following it for the meantime. New Age spirituality, that is, because the old spirituality, the religion, Christianity, the Bible reading and stuff like that will never go away. It's just something that, like, I've seen physical proof of it. There's a lot of people that seen physical proof of it. And I think right here now, I'm just going to break down why I, in general, like, left and didn't want to return to it, and why I did some of the stuff I did within that group. Okay. So to start, a bunch of friends from a long time ago, years ago, led me in to this thing. I didn't even know it existed. It was just some sort of new religion. I didn't even understand it. I was literally falling, not really falling, but I was on the verge of growing into Christianity and believing of God, and just some things had happened to me that really showed me that the old spirituality compared to the new spirituality is a bit like outlandish. And well, the new spirituality is just really outlandish, and it's just this, like, acceptance of everybody's intolerations of things, you know. Like, example, like, you're supposed to tolerate a hanging around a murderer, or like hanging around some, like, dangerous human being. And psychology has always told me you're supposed to, like, be cautious around certain people like that, solely because you don't know what they're capable of. Okay. And I ended up, through into this by a group of people who started a band off, and they introduced me to crystals, um the stones, the really shiny stones that, like, they believe if you meditate on them, you could actually break open your third eye and become psychic of some sorts, or something like that. I don't know if there's any physical evidence behind this, but I had really unique experiences that maybe in my head it was just a placebo effect, and I believed it. I believed it because I was following spirituality. All right. So that's why you won't see me sit here and act crazy like that anymore. Like, I do believe in God. I do believe God exists. I believe in power of prayer. I believe in God fixing things. But I don't believe that, I don't believe a bunch of stones or whatever can, make you believe you can have foresight into the future. And the reason I don't think this is because there's no physical evidence of a stone being able to do that, no matter how many stones you put beside you. Um, it's just weird how it all works. Like, the whole idea of it is based around a bunch of multiple gods, a bunch of multiple crystals. You meditate upon those crystals and get answers from the god you believe in. All right. And it leads down to just believing in, like, things such as a tree, a stone, anything. You can make anything in spirituality into your God, okay? And what this actually did is it brought a bunch of people together that were from different varieties of religions, and it just really was a mixing pot of people just not people just totally confused about everything that they thought they knew. All right, I'm listening to the Bible right now, and there's a lot of stuff within the Bible that has shown me the Bible is not this peace and hippie and love kind of thing, no matter how much you think of it, no matter how much you realize it. But the Bible isn't peace and hippie stuff at all. It's, there is there are really, really dark parts in the Bible. But what I learned about these people in spirituality is they don't allow themselves to accept their emotions. So what you'll see amongst these people, if you ever get a chance to explore into spirituality, New Age spirituality, that is, you are going to see a bunch of people that have broken their mentality and don't know how to follow an emotion. I don't know why they would want to do that to themselves. And in all honesty, it's actually considered as a form of abuse towards your own self. You have to be really depressed not to want to follow your emotions and not to get mad. What can that do for you by not getting mad? Were you gonna, you're not able to stand up for anything then, so you're just letting yourself accept everything as it is. Growing up, I was taught that you have to stand up for what you believe in, and being a hippie isn't standing up to anything. Being a hippie, a New Age spiritual person, is all about hiding your emotions and pretending you have no such thing as emotions, which leads you to not finding love, to having sexual intercourse with random people you never even loved to begin with. On top of it, possibly getting a disease. And that's where the more bothersome part comes in at. And, when it comes down to it, you look at it as a whole and you start to see exactly what it is I'm talking about. And you're gonna be like, okay, this is kind of weird. And it got weird. It got weird to the point where I had this, like, one guy I knew. I used to live with him and everything, and he was literally trying to set me up with this transgender person. And I'm just like, no, there's something wrong with you for even remotely thinking that's okay. And, back then I left to go because I was like, well, it is what he is. It is what it is. He probably just thought that I would be accepting of that. But then it just grew and got worse. And it's like everybody started to be tolerant of this thing that's very, very intolerable. And that's why New Age spirituality is not a good thing. We're supposed to have boundaries. We're supposed to respect things that, we're supposed to respect each other's wishes. We're not supposed to intrude and do weird stuff to each other. And it got extremely weird to the point where I just, after 2 years of actually being deep into it, I learned a lot about the people. I learned they're accepting of, somebody that's potentially dangerous. They're accepting of, like, really, really, just drug use. They're accepting of being brainwashed. They're accepting of being broken as a human being. They're accepting of, they're accepting of a lot of stuff that no human being in the right mind should be accepting. All right. So what I've been seeing and what I noticed is that, like, I'll see a guy with, like, multiple women. All right. And it becomes a point to where these people are so brainwashed that they think that what that is just specifically okay. And I would see a guy with like a huge beard and bald just leave with like 2 women. I'm like, there's something wrong here with this entire picture. All right. Now, going back to when I was a part of it, there were a few places I used to go that would have drum circles, and then I'd meet everybody involved in this like giant crowd. It felt like I was in high school for like the second time all over again. Very, very weird and bizarre. But I witnessed people just fighting amongst each other. I witnessed people, pretending they're all peaceful, but reality of truth is they were not as peaceful as they thought. I got told that I need to lighten up a little bit, because I had ones and zeros on my shirts, which was like, which not ones and zeros on my shirt. Yeah, ones and zeros on my shirt because it was a computer shirt. A guy looked at me, he straight up said to me, he's like, "Oh, that's why you're not lining up. You're so worried about computers and stuff like that." I'm like, so what? So what? You're supposed to be tolerant and accepting of what I'm supposed to do, right? So for you to sit there and tell me that, that's a bunch of baloney. That's a bunch of baloney, okay? And this kid, um, these kids were all messed up. I've witnessed things like in that whole group in perspective of like young kids coming into this crowd and just being accepted by these full-grown adults. And it got really, really fucking disturbing. And it got disturbing to a point where I even witnessed the death of a guy who apparently probably I was told he overdosed, but the reality of the truth is I'm pretty sure somebody ended up killing him. And this is where the whole like story like just gets disturbing. But they they seem to think that you're doing everything okay, and let's just accept everything as it is. And if you look around you now, what is the news always talking about, or what is the government pushing on us? This idea that everything you're doing is perfectly fine and okay, even if it's wrong. All right, being out of shape is very unhealthy for you. You can be slightly out of shape and still go out and run and work out, and you're in better shape than the person that's the same size as you that doesn't go out and work out. You know, but there's a lot of problems and a lot of misconceptions when you break all this down and look at it. And Orlando, Florida, I used to hang out at some of the places, and I no longer step foot back there. Specifically, coffee shops were a dwelling spot. One specific coffee spot in Orlando, Florida, which I'm not going to say here, the name starts with an A. It is a dwelling spot for people that are just like that, who are lost, confused, and have a misunderstanding of what life is actually about. And a lot of these people, they're so afraid of just accepting the truth. Like, how do you not allow your emotions to direct you in where you're supposed to be in life? You can't go through life not having any form of emotion. Emotions are built in us to show that we're human beings. If you're breaking your emotions down and you're telling yourself, well, that's all in your head, blah blah blah, you're not supposed to be treating yourself as such. That is abuse to you as a human being, and the fact that you're even doing that means you're breaking yourself down to be a mindless zombie that has no emotion in yourself whatsoever. And it's a sad thing to experience people you once knew act as such. And here's an example of something I talked about somebody recently, that I was at one point good friends with them, but I talked to them, and what it led down to is the conversation was, them asking me how I was doing. And then when asking me how I was doing, I told them what I was doing. And they made it seem like there was something wrong with what I was doing. I was building computers at the time, and I was learning new hobbies to get myself away from spirituality and lead myself into a new chapter in my life where I feel a lot more healthier now, not being around these people that don't have feelings upon themselves, okay? But it has also led me into experiences where I ran into a lot of people with a lot of problems in their life. And this story goes like this. So I talked to her, and as I'm talking to her, I started building computers, blah blah blah, let me show you. And they started getting into how computers are just evil, computers aren't saving the environment, computers are doing this and that, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, if you feel that way about me, or no, I said something along the lines of like, you sound like you're really broken and you sound like you need some help. And I'm not genuinely trying to be mean, but as a friend, I get concerned when people aren't showing emotions, when people aren't feeling well. Like, I do it to everybody, even people on YouTube. If I really, really care, I will do something to at least admit I care about them and show them that they do matter, even though I've never met them. But yeah, it got extremely weird. And then, while back in time when I was a part of this whole thing, I was hearing people will say like they were gods. and they would carry Egyptian crosses around on their neck, just like stuff that was so outlandish and so weird that it was at a whole other level. I'm like, what is going on here with this group of people? What is making these people act as if like this is all just normal? All right? And I don't know, and still to this day, I don't understand what intrigues people to want to go that route. But I did notice one thing amongst those people, and this is where it gets concerning. As soon as I meet new people and I see them wearing crystal stones on their wrists, I start to get concerned. Because that's an example of what you're going to see next is an example of somebody who is going to get worse, and you're going to see it right in front of you. And, you know, there were a couple people that I talked to that I've seen with crystal stones on as soon as I, like, came and started talking to them. And I witnessed the whole thing. I witnessed some of them just get worse as time went on. And you can see them just change right in front of you. Like, they change to an extent that's unrepairable. And they will continue to believe what is actually going on. And it's just wild. It reminded me a lot of, like, so the story of Charles Manson from years ago, it reminded me of something along that lines where Charles Manson brainwashed a bunch of women, made them shave their hair, and they killed a bunch of people. That's what it reminded me of. That's why I don't trust spirituality. That's why I don't like spirituality. And that's why I kind of dug into that along with cosplay. Cosplay is a little bit different. But it is still a brainwashing tactic that leads people to do really weird and outlandish things. I don't understand it. And it leads down another path and a deeper rabbit hole. But yeah, I broke this down enough for you guys to understand why spirituality is just not a good thing to be a part of. We need to do away with it. We need to fight against it. We need to stop making sure that it gets, worse and worse. And, in the Bible, somebody explained to me that in the Bible at one point, they were talking about they were gods or whatever. And my buddy from work who reads the Bible, he was saying that people were saying that in the Bible. So I'm interested to hear where that goes and how that worked, because at the end of the day, you're a human being, okay? You're a human being. You're not a god. You don't have powers like that. And I do believe some prophets exist in the world, but I'm not saying they have like this like really, really strong power. But I do believe God has prophets, all right? And there's a whole bunch of aspects of it that like just extremely weird, and that's why like I looked at when I dug into it and I got the experience of it, it just wasn't something for me. After a few years of being around it, I want to say 3 to 4 years of being around it, I finally decided to come out. I found myself a better job. I started like actually like talking more and more about it to try to get it out there amongst everybody. And I hope that's what this video does for you. It gives you an example why I will never go back to spirituality and why nobody out there should be joining spirituality. Well, New Age spirituality, because it combines a bunch of things into one, and it's just a big thing, just massive thing of confusion that nobody should join. And also it breaks you down. So you might see loved ones. If you see a loved one and you get a crystal bracelet, be cautious about that, because you might want to try to stop that, because that leads into other sectors that you don't want to see your loved ones go into. And believe me, my life has changed since I was a part of that group. And that's why I will never go back to them. There was a lot of stuff that happened on top of that wasn't what I wanted in my life, and nor does anybody need that in their life. And take this as a lesson and learn from it from me, who has actually been a part of it. You will come out of there, change your life, and you'll see people just act like weird. And that's where I'm at. I'm seeing people act extremely weird towards stuff I do. Like even this YouTube channel or anything I do, it's a hive mindset where they feel the need to be like, well, you can't do that because that's not a part of what this group's about. And the big problem is, what do people do when you're trying to promote good? They try to condemn it because they know you're trying to do the right thing. And that's something why I keep doing these YouTube channels, even if people break them down. because there's a lot of evidence here as to when I talk about this stuff, you know, I'm not going to get in trouble for talking about it, but it's just an example as to why you should watch in case your loved ones or somebody gets involved in New Age spirituality. There's a big difference between Christianity and New Age spirituality. All right, just be warned that as soon as you start seeing crystal stones, that's just your sign. You need to consider, like, keeping an eye on that person and make sure that person, why, and see if that person is going to change for the worse. Because I see it a lot in a lot of people, and they just have this capacity of, like, not believing in things, and, well, not believing in anything you say, and they'll continue to walk down that path until they're fully broken and unrepairable, and to get them back is never going to happen. So with that said, I want you guys to sit there and take everything into consideration about what New Age spirituality is doing to society, and learn that we don't need New Age spirituality. It's best that we get rid of it as a whole, because it causes so many problems amongst the world that the world's not the same anymore, because what it does is it fills your head with a bunch of nonsense. So believing that we're in some alternate timeline because somebody who's involved with spirituality is saying it is the most far-fetched fucking thing I will ever say and I will ever hear. And it leads to other areas, other territories, which, you know, I could go in even deeper, but I'm going to stop here. So take this video as a consideration and learn from it, and learn and understand that if you see a loved one getting involved in New Age spirituality, try to prevent them from it. Try to prevent them and save them from it, because it's going to tear them. It's going to take them as who they are now, and they're going to change, and they won't be the same person after that. And for me, when I went into it, I came back out of it after being away from the people for a couple years. And I don't, you know, part of me thinks that God sent me in there just to see what everything was about. And I learned a lot about him. I learned a lot about him. Very, very unhealthy environment. Very unhealthy people. And that's just it. All right. So if you like this video here, hit that like button. Please subscribe to their channel, because I'll have more content like this. I'm talking a lot about my life experiences, which is perfectly fine. That's what this channel is about. And also, if you did subscribe, hit that notification bell to get more from me. And I'll be seeing you next time. Take it easy.